Hey everybody, this is Tim Henderson, Bane-Welker Equipment out of the Terre Haute location. Thanks for joining us today. Representing the lawn and garden side of our service here in Terre Haute, we're going to be talking about your BX series machines. Today we're halfway through a setup on a new machine on a 2680. We're going to take opportunity to look at a few things you don't normally get to see out and open. Some basic things, any water-cooled engine, as you know, it's important to keep the radiators good and clean. On the BXs, one thing we do find, such a compact machine, dirt and debris gets in and gets on your radiators. In your operator's manual, it talks about keeping your screen clean, and that is very important. You want to pull it out, but mostly is when you're pulling it out, that grass and debris is getting trapped down on the radiator, and all it takes is the size of your hand on the very lower side, and then your temperature is going to start coming up. And it's like a magnet. That stuff's going to start sticking to it and getting hotter. On our wet conditions, you know, we're not getting so much dust right now, but you're getting a lot of grass, especially tall clippings when you guys are trying to get caught up and so forth. Just something to be really careful with. Some basic, basically every day before you run it, it's a good idea to check this. If we do that, we're going to be cutting back on any downtime. If you do get it warm and hot, remember to let it cool down and make sure we didn't lose coolant. It'll go through its overflow tank, which is good and stores it, but we're going to be low on coolant in the radiator. Just keep an eye on that. These basic steps here on this radiator alone will keep it out of the shop quicker, or quicker to go in. They can get really expensive. We can damage the cylinder heads, crack them, a lot of downtime. The extreme situation, if you have one that's just every time you mow it's overheating, where you're dealing with it, can even get to the point where you have to replace an engine. Something to keep up with. Some of the things I'm talking about today, you're also going to see not only on this new one, but on your original BX 2200s and the series that followed that, very similar. All run 2 fuel filters. One is easily accessible up by the engine. And the second one, some people don't know it's there if we don't explain it when we sell it. It's underneath the machine. You really need to remove the mowing deck to be able to get to it. That way we access it good and safe, put it back on there, don't damage the fuel line. That one actually does the grunt of the work. It's right out of the fuel tank, it goes in that, and then it hits your fuel pump. So a couple of things you want to keep up with. Start losing power, you haven't changed fuel filter, that's the best thing to do. Most of you know we don't run winter specials here with Bane-Welker Equipment. Even though we do that once a year, that's great, it's a good program. In between mowings, you want to keep up with your greasing. General inspection, looking everything over, check your oil. On these machines also, before we go to the mowing deck, some quick basic things. On your mowing decks, on your height settings, when you go to adjust these, make sure your mowing deck's all the way up. It allows that adjuster to move free. When it's down, all that pressure's on it, and you have trouble. So just something to think of. This other lever right here in the middle below the seat, that's our draft control. It's going to control our 3-point hitch, which also cantilevers and runs our deck. So that speeds up and slows down the function of our hydraulics for our 3-point. You can speed it up, slow it down, but it can also shut it off. So one day you go out and all of a sudden you have no 3-point, check that first. Make sure it hasn't just got bumped enough to turn it off. If it's the point your mowing deck is slamming down, that's where you can go and slow that up. Just some basic steps. Your dip lock pedal, just a good point from the service side. If you guys use that, or ladies out there, keep in mind, come to a stop with your hydrostat, then engage that. If you're moving and spinning those tires and engage that, it's awful hard on that. Can lead to a pretty big repair. These machines here, they're pretty bulletproof, but if you do something like that, it's pretty intense. You actually have to pull the transmissions out of these tractors to make that repair. Pretty expensive repair. Moving up front, up on the mowing deck, with this off today, we can get a better perspective of some different things. Shaft driven from the transmission, self-contained gearbox, holds less than a quart. This one here is the style where we're using check plugs in the side. Most of them have 2. You want to do your upper check plug and just remove it and make sure fluid's coming out. And if you need to add it, gently add it. If you do add, clean any residual, keep an eye on that. If you're just getting ready to mow and you see some oil up there, we need to keep an eye on that. We shouldn't have any leaks. If we do, it's not going to take long to lose that oil in that gearbox. and can lead to a pretty expensive repair. If we can catch it early, it seals, and we'll go through and check bearings. But if we let it go too far, one, it'll lock up or get real noisy, and that repair gets pretty pricey. The double-edged bell down here lasts pretty well. Just want to keep up, get any grass or debris, sticks especially off there. Get a few grease points on here. Drive line is real important. Two-piece drive shaft. We want to keep this spline lubricated. You want to keep your U-joints greased. If you don't keep this lubricated, it'll lock up and push and pull on the joints and pull on the transmission and pull on that gearbox. And again, it just leads to some repairs down the road. Just something to work on. Tire pressure. Just keep up your tire pressure. Your operator's manual is really good about setting different settings, tire pressures. Really good on maintenance tips. There's hour intervals, tells you what it is. At the end of that page in the hour intervals, it also tells you what page to go to for any tests on doing that. Again, my name is Tim Henderson here at the Terre Haute location, service manager.